Hot wind whipped across the dry South African plain, kicking up red dust that stuck to everything like fine sugar. Under a twisted acacia tree, 3 tiny bundles of fur pressed tight together, their little bodies shaking next to the still form of their mother. A poacher's wire snare had done its cruel work overnight, leaving the lioness cold and the cubs, 2 fluffy golden girls and 1 scruffy hyena pup, alone in a world that suddenly felt too big. Rangers found them at dawn, ears flat, lips curled over needle-sharp milk teeth, hissing at every boot that came close. The men radioed the sanctuary, voices tight. "Bring the vet! Quick! These babies won't last another hour without milk." Lara Kane arrived in a cloud of dust, truck door slamming like a heartbeat. 30-something, arms rope strong from years of wrestling sedated rhinos. Her face baked bronze by the sun and marked by a pale scar that ran from cheekbone to jaw, a souvenir from a leopard that once decided her arm looked like lunch. She didn't waste words. While the team unloaded crates, she walked straight to the cubs, boots grinding gravel, knees bending slow so she didn't loom. The lion sisters puffed up first, miniature roars rumbling out like angry kittens. The hyena pup yipped and snapped at air. Lara's shadow fell over them, big and calm. She lowered herself all the way to the dirt, palms open, and let the wind carry her scent ahead of her. "Hey, little fighters," she murmured, voice soft as the evening breeze that cools the veld. "Mama's gone, but I'm here now." 1 cub, the bolder lioness, lunged a wobbly step, paws splayed, but Lara didn't flinch. She held the gaze, brown eyes steady, until the tiny chest stopped heaving so hard. The second lioness edged closer, nose twitching. The hyena pup circled behind, curious despite the fear. Dust devils spun in the distance. Somewhere a jackal barked. Lara reached into her pocket, pulled out a strip of dried biltong, and tore it into 3 pieces. She laid them on the ground like peace offerings. Silence stretched, broken only by the click of cub teeth testing the meat. The rangers watched from the truck, arms folded, waiting for the usual chaos, bites, scratches, tranquilizer darts. Instead, the bolder cub sniffed, then licked the biltong. Her sister followed. The hyena pup darted in last, snatched his share, and retreated 2 steps before crunching happily. Lara stayed on her knees unmoving until all 3 pieces were gone. Only then did she inch forward, fingertips brushing the warm fur of the nearest lioness. The cub froze, then leaned, tiny, trusting against her hand. A collective breath released from the team. Lara smiled, small and tired, and whispered again, "Let's go home." The sun burned higher. But in that circle of dust and fur, something fierce and fragile had already begun to knit itself together, 1 heartbeat at a time. The sanctuary truck bounced over rutted tracks until the enclosures came into view. Chain-link pens baked golden by the afternoon sun, water troughs glinting like mirrors. Lara carried the cubs in 1 by 1, wrapped in soft blankets that smelled of milk and antiseptic. She settled them into the biggest pen, hay thick under their paws, a heat lamp glowing warm overhead. The bolder lioness sniffed the air, then flopped down with a grumpy huff. Her sister curled tight against the hyena pup, all 3 a tangled ball of fur and tiny growls. First feeding time turned into a standoff. A young handler approached with warmed bottles, nipples dripping creamy formula. The lion sister shot upright, backs arched, ears flat. They hissed like angry geese. The hyena pup darted behind the water bowl, yipping sharp warnings. Bottles stayed untouched. Every time someone stepped close, the fence rattled with miniature roars that echoed off the tin roof and made the monkeys in the next pen chatter. Nervously, the burly security guard, call him the one with the mustache like a broom and boots that left deep, Prince, decided enough was enough. He marched over during the evening round, keys jangling, voice booming. "Step back, kid, let me show you how it's done." He unlatched the gate, bottle raised like a peace flag. The lion cubs exploded into action. Paws slammed the wire, teeth flashing, roars rolling out bigger than their bodies had any right to produce. One actually hooked a claw through the mesh and yanked. The guard stumbled back, bottle tipping, milk splattering his shirt. Little monsters," he muttered, face red. From the shade of the feed shed, Lara watched it all. The scene tugged at something deep, memories of foster homes where doors slammed and voices rose, where she learned early that loud only scared small things more. She waited until the sun dipped low, painting the sky orange and pink. Then she slipped off her hat, rolled her sleeves, and walked to the gate alone. The handler started to protest, but she just lifted a finger. Wait. Inside the pen, the cubs froze, hackles still high. Lara lowered herself slowly, knees in the dirt, until she sat cross-legged right in their space. Dust settled around her boots. She pulled a small piece of raw meat from her pocket, held it flat on her palm. "Hungry?" she asked, voice low, the same tone she used on stormy nights when thunder scared the dogs. The bolder lioness sniffed, took one cautious step. Her sister followed. The hyena pup circled wide, eyes never leaving Lara's face. One breath, two. The first cub nudged the meat, then licked Lara's fingers clean. A soft rumble, not a growl, more like a question, vibrated in the little chest. Lara smiled, slow and real, and extended her other hand, palm up, an invitation written in silence. Morning light spilled over the sanctuary like warm honey, and Lara was already there, kneeling in the pen with 3 bottles lined up like soldiers. The cubs tumbled out of their nest box, legs longer now, bellies round from days of steady milk. The bolder lioness, gold because her fur caught the sun just right, leapt straight into Lara's lap, paws on her chest, demanding first sip. Ember, the shyer sister, waited her turn but never took her eyes off Lara's face. Shadow, the hyena pup, darted in last, snatching the bottle and dragging it to the corner like he'd won a prize, tail wagging in crooked circles. By noon, the pen turned into a playground. Lara rolled an old soccer ball across the dirt. Gold pounced, missed, rolled head over tail. Ember stalked from the side, belly low, then sprang and landed on the ball with all 4 paws. Shadow watched, head tilted, then stole the ball and ran, the lions chasing in a dusty whirlwind. Lara laughed, real throat-open laughter that made the cubs pause and stare, ears perked. She flopped onto her back in the grass, arms wide and all 3 piled on, nipping sleeves, licking her chin, warm little bodies wriggling until she couldn't breathe for giggling. Afternoons were quiet time. Lara sat against the fence, legs stretched out, reading an old paperback while the cubs napped in the shade of her boots. Gold used her thigh as a pillow. Ember curled against her side. Shadow sprawled across both feet, snoring tiny hyena snores. Staff walking past smiled. Nobody had ever seen orphaned predators sleep so trusting. Then came the rainy evening. Clouds stacked black and heavy, thunder growling far off. A new night patrol crew arrived. 3 guards in crisp uniforms, flashlights slicing the gloom. One beam swung across the pen, catching Gold mid-yawn. The light felt like a slap. All 3 cubs shot upright, fur puffed, lips peeling back. Gold charged the fence first, paws slamming wire. Ember flanked her, roaring in a pitch that cracked with youth. Shadow zipped between them, yipping sharp and fast. The guards jumped back, one fumbling for his radio. "They're gonna break out!" Lara heard the commotion from the feed room, heart kicking hard. She dropped the sack of meat scraps and ran, boots splashing through puddles. Rain started, big warm drops that turned dust to mud. She skidded to the gate, breath fogging, and saw the cubs in full battle mode, eyes wild, bodies coiled to spring. One guard raised a hand. "Stay back, ma'am!" But Lara was already inside, gate clanging shut behind her. She planted herself between the furious trio and the trembling flashlights, arms out, rain plastering hair to her face. The cubs snarled louder, confused, protective. Lara's pulse hammered, but her voice stayed low, steady, the same tone she used when lightning scared them at night. Hey, it's me. You're safe." Gold's ears flicked. Ember's roar faltered into a whine. Shadow took one step forward, nose twitching toward Lara's familiar scent. Rain drummed harder, but the space between woman and cubs began to shrink. One heartbeat at a time, rain hammered the tin roof like 1,000 tiny drums, turning the pen into a muddy arena lit by swinging flashlight beams. The lead guard, tall, jaw tight under his cap, snapped the tranquilizer gun up, orange dart glowing faint in the stormlight. "Everybody back, now!" he barked, voice cracking over the thunder. Behind him, the other two guards fanned out, boots slipping in the slick grass. The cubs answered with a wall of sound, 3-month throats pushing roars that rattled the fence posts. Gold slammed both front paws against the wire, claws hooking metal. Ember reared beside her, mane fluffed like a tiny thundercloud. Shadow darted low and fast, nipping at the gate latch as if he could chew it open. Lara's heart slammed against her ribs so hard she felt it in her teeth. Water streamed off her hair, soaked her shirt, but she didn't move. A flash of memory hit. Years back, moonlight on a riverbank, a leopard's eyes glowing green before it lunged, teeth closing on her arm until she jammed a stick in its mouth and ran. The scar on her cheek burned cold in the rain. She shoved the thought down. That night she'd had a knife in panic. Tonight she had something stronger. She dropped to one knee right in the cub's space, mud splashing her jeans. Gold spun toward her, lips still curled, but Lara met the stare, steady, unblinking. "Easy, little ones," she said, voice low, the same hush she used when nightmares woke them at 3 a.m. She reached slow, palm open, until her fingers brushed Gold's wet mane. The cub froze, ears flicking raindrops. Ember's roar cracked into a confused whimper. Shadow skidded to a stop, nose twitching toward Lara's familiar scent of milk and dust. The guard took a step closer, gun raised. "Ma'am, they're gonna charge! Move!" Lightning forked overhead, freezing everyone in white light. Cubs bristling, Lara kneeling, guards wide-eyed. She didn't look back. Instead, she slid her hand deeper into Gold's fur, feeling the frantic heartbeat slow under her touch. "Not tonight," she murmured, more to herself than anyone. Ember edged forward, shoulder bumping Lara's leg. Shadow pressed against her other side, a warm, trembling weight. The growls faded to grumbles, then to heavy breathing that matched the rain. One guard lowered his flashlight, beam shaking. The lead hesitated, finger off the trigger. In the sudden quiet, only water dripped from the fence and cub noses sniffed Lara's sleeves. She stayed on her knee, surrounded by 3 small predators who had chosen her over fear, while the storm raged on and the night held its breath to see what trust could do next. Rain sheeted sideways, turning the pen into a blurry watercolor of mud and shadows, but Lara's world narrowed to the 3 small faces inches from hers. Gold's teeth still flashed white, Ember's shoulders bunched for another lunge, Shadow's hackles spiked like wet thorns. The guard stood statue still behind the fence, flashlight beams trembling, the tranquilizer gun forgotten at the leader's side. Thunder rolled overhead, close enough to rattle teeth. Yet Lara leaned in until her forehead nearly touched Gold's. "Enough," she whispered, one word, soft as breath, but it carried the weight of every sunrise feeding. Every noon chase, every midnight when nightmares made the cubs cry and she hummed them back to sleep. The syllable floated out, warm against the cold rain, and hung there like a rope thrown across a raging river. Gold's ears flicked first, raindrops flying. Her roar cracked mid-note, turning into a confused huff. Ember's head snapped around, eyes wide, the fight flickering behind them like a candle in wind. Shadow let out a tiny whimper, half fear, half relief, and took one stumbling step forward. Lara didn't move, didn't raise her voice, just let the words settle into their bones the way trust had settled into hers over weeks of scratched hands and shared naps. Gold's shoulders dropped. The big cat's snarl melted into a grumble, then silence. Ember's tail, stiff as a board, loosened and flicked once, twice. Shadow's whole body sagged. He pressed his wet nose into Lara's knee, leaving a muddy streak on her jeans. One by one they folded, Gold first, chin dipping until it rested on Lara's boot. Ember circling tight and flopping against her side. Shadow wedging between them like the last piece of a puzzle. 3 small predators, dripping and panting, curled into the curve of her legs as if the storm had never happened. Behind the fence, a guard exhaled so loud it sounded like a laugh. The flashlight beams lowered, sweeping harmless circles on the ground. Lara stayed kneeling, rain drumming her back, fingers buried in warm fur. She felt the tiny hearts slow against her shins, heard the soft chuff-chuff of cub breathing. The word enough still echoed in her own chest, simple, strong, the same command she'd once wished someone had whispered to her younger, scared self in too many foster bedrooms. Tonight it worked both ways. The cubs safe, the guards safe. The night suddenly quiet except for rain and the gentle rustle of 3 babies dreaming under her watch. The rain eased to a gentle patter, like fingers tapping a window, and the flashlight beams held steady now, painting soft circles on the wet ground. Lara stayed on her knees, mud soaking through her jeans, waiting. The cubs blinked rainwater from their lashes, bodies still humming with leftover fight. Then Gold took the first step, slow, deliberate, paws squishing in the muck. No snarl, no puff, just a curious nudge against Lara's thigh, rough fur brushing denim like a question. Ember watched, head low, then copied her sister. She circled once, tail flicking droplets, and bumped Lara's hip before dropping to the dirt with a soft thud. Shadow hesitated longest, ears twitching at every drip from the roof. He sniffed the air, sniffed Lara's boot, then flopped sideways with a dramatic sigh that puffed mud into tiny clouds. All 3 pressed close. Gold's head on Lara's knee, Ember's flank warm against her side, Shadow's chin hooked over her ankle like he'd claimed the spot forever. The guards didn't move. One flashlight dipped, then another, until the beams pooled harmless on the ground. Somebody whispered, "You seeing this?" But no one answered. Lara's hand moved slow, fingers sinking into Gold's damp mane, scratching just behind the ears the way she'd learned made the cub purr. Ember leaned harder, eyes slitting in bliss. Shadow's tail thumped once, twice, then stilled. 3 wild things, hearts racing minutes ago, now melted into oversized house cats begging for pets. Lara's throat tightened. She felt the weight of Gold's head, the tickle of Ember's whiskers, the steady rise and fall of Shadow's ribs against her calf. A single tear slipped free, hot against cold rain on her cheek. It wasn't sadness. It was the kind of full that happens when something broken clicks back together. Weeks of bottle fights, scratched arms, sleepless nights checking temperatures, all of it folded into this quiet pile of fur and trust. She scratched under Shadow's chin. He stretched, paws kneading air. Gold rumbled a sleepy sound, almost a purr. Ember's eyes closed completely, lashes dark against golden cheeks. The storm grumbled farther off, lightning flickering like a dying bulb. Lara let her other hand rest on Ember's back, feeling the tiny heartbeats slow to match her own. Mud, rain, exhaustion, none of it mattered. Right there, boots planted in the mess, she had a family that chose her back. The guards finally stepped away, boots quiet, leaving the pen to its small, perfect peace. Word of the rainy night miracle zipped through the sanctuary faster than monkeys stealing lunch. By breakfast, kitchen staff leaned over coffee mugs, swapping the story. 3 roaring cubs turned to puddles at one whisper. Skeptical rangers rolled eyes, wait till you see it sober. But come noon feeding, a small crowd gathered at the pen fence, phones tucked away, breaths held. Lara walked up with her usual bucket of chopped meat and warm milk, boots leaving prints in the soft dirt. The cubs, bigger now, legs gangly, manes starting to fluff, sat in a neat row like school kids waiting for the bell. Gold's tail thumped dust. Ember's ears perked forward. Shadow bounced on his front paws, tongue lolling. No hisses, no charges. Just 3 pairs of eyes tracking Lara's every step. She unlatched the gate, stepped inside, and the trio surged, not in attack, but in greeting. Gold head butted her knee gently. Ember wound figure eights between her ankles. Shadow leapt straight into her arms, nearly knocking the bucket flying. Laughter rippled through the watchers. The security team showed up next day, hats in hands, the lead guard shuffling like a kid caught sneaking cookies. "Any chance you could show us what you do?" he mumbled. Lara grinned, scar pulling tight. That afternoon, she started small classes under the big acacia, 10 chairs in a circle, her standing in the middle with a clicker and a pocket full of treats. She talked slow, read ears, not teeth. Watch tails, not claws. Breathe calm and they'll mirror it. Staff scribbled notes. Even the grumpy mechanic sat in, weeks blurred. The cubs shot up, Gold's shoulders broad, Ember's leaps graceful, Shadow's laugh-like whoops echoing at dawn. Mornings, Laura opened the gate and they bounded out for playtime in the big field, chasing feathers on strings, wrestling in sun-warmed grass, flopping exhausted across her lap for belly rubs. One evening, a new volunteer gasped as Gold rolled over, paws in the air, purring loud enough to rattle nearby windows. Ember nuzzled Laura's pocket for the hidden apple slice. Shadow fetched a stick, actually fetched, and dropped it at her feet with a proud bow. The sanctuary changed, too. Feeding fights dropped. Bite reports vanished. Guards walked softer, spoke lower. Laura's scar became legend. Kids traced it with sticky fingers, asking if it hurt when the leopard bit. She'd laugh, ruffle their hair, hurt less than a broken heart. Every sunset, the cubs waited at the gate, 3 silhouettes against orange sky. Proof that wild hearts listen when someone cares enough to whisper instead of shout. Months slipped by like pages in a well-worn book, and the cubs weren't cubs anymore. Gold's mane framed her face in a golden halo. Ember moved with quiet grace, every step measured. Shadow's spots had deepened, his laugh whoops carrying across the valley at dusk. The sanctuary vets ran final checks, teeth sharp, muscles strong, instincts honed in wide training fields. Release day circled on every calendar. Dawn painted the sky soft pink when the transport crates arrived, doors yawning open like invitations to the wild. Lara walked the path one last time, boots scuffed from 1,000 play fights, pockets empty of treats for the first time in forever. The teens, nearly full-grown now, lounged by the gate, tails flicking lazy patterns in the dust. Gold stretched, yawned huge. Ember bumped shoulders with Shadow, who flopped dramatically for a belly scratch that never came. Lara knelt, knees popping. Big world out there, she murmured, voice catching on the dry morning air. Gold padded over first, head low, and rested her heavy chin on Lara's thigh, same spot she'd claimed as a bottle baby. Ember circled, then leaned her whole weight against Lara's side, warm and solid. Shadow wedged in last, paw on her boot, eyes half closed in that old familiar trust. Staff watched from a distance, quiet. No one rushed. Lara's fingers traced old scars on Gold's ear, play bites from puppy days. Then Ember's whisker line, Shadow's spotted nose. "You taught me plenty," she whispered, throat tight. How to stand still when everything screams run. How to forgive the teeth that bite. A breeze stirred the grass. Somewhere a bird called. The crate doors waited. Lara stood slow, brushing dust from her jeans. One by one, the teens rose. Gold first, shaking like a dog after rain. Ember pausing to lick Lara's fingers once. Shadow bouncing ahead, then looking back with a playful bow. They walked into the crates on their own, tails high, no coaxing needed. Doors clanged soft. Engines rumbled. Lara stood at the gate until the truck vanished in a swirl of red dust, heart full and hollow at once. Back at the sanctuary, her whisper methods filled notebooks, trained new hands, saved orphans who once would have been lost. Kids on tours begged to hear the story. Vets quoted her in meetings, but Lara just smiled, Scar catching the light, and pointed to the empty pen where 3 shadows used to wait. "Strength isn't loud," she'd say. "It's the quiet that says enough and means stay safe." And every evening, wherever the wind carried their roars, 3 wild hearts remembered the boots that never left.